Anytime you get your best friends in the room, you never know what could happen. And that is definitely our scenario here today. The sportscasting industry has been instrumental in my life, as it has for our three guests joining us here today. This is Catching Up with Erik Pessolano. All right, guys, thanks for joining us here today. So glad you can make it. I appreciate your time. We'll start over on the left. That's Rashawn Haylock. Everybody knows him. He's with Fox Sports. We see him on Friday nights under the lights. Of course, also with SportsNetUSA.net. Thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. In the middle here, it's the Buddha of Babel. It's Mark Pavlovich, also from SportsNetUSA.net, in his 19th season calling Fullerton College Hornet football. Number 20 is next year. That should be a fun one.
It should be.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I'll have him with me. So, you know, Morgan Freeman. It's nice to have my guy with me.
I'm so glad I called you guys up.
We're starting off.
And over here, closest to me, right on my right, is
Morgan
Corey
Freeman.
Nalen.
Oh.
Corey Nalen is also from SportsNetUSA.net, the producer, director extraordinaire. Thanks for coming.
Well, extraordinaire is kind of pushing it.
It's what it says on the card. That's just what we're just going to do that.
All right.
Topic of discussion today, boys. The media.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Boy, you can't say that to us people.
It's on the card again.
Man.
Wow.
Oh, man.
This is going to sell. People are going to love this. Topic of discussion for today. Local high school sports media. It's something we all know very well. We've been in it for the better part of the last 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, can you believe it? It's
crazy.
It's been that long. I want to go all the way back. We've all called games for SportsNetUSA.net. We're all still involved. And Mark, I want to start with you. Going all the way back to when everything was starting up, what did the high school sports media landscape look like back in 2002, 2003-ish?
It was empty. It was really empty. I mean, the company you worked for really wasn't involved because there was no money back then. And there wasn't much to do. It was all audio. Nobody even thought about video back in those days. And the high schools were just embraced anybody that wanted to come out and call their games. Back then we did it for 90.1 KBPK before we started SportsNetUSA.net. And I don't think anybody really knew that high school sports was going to be the bank that it's turned into. You know, you look at some of the sites that went up with stats and everything else. Two guys start a site, they start doing high school stats. Next thing you know, it's bought by CBS, and they become multi-millionaires. And you know, I know the two guys on my right and my left. You know, we went out and did Buena Park High School. We just liked being there, even though it was some of the most atrocious football you could ever watch. You went out and did those games.
Well, we're going to reminisce a little bit later on. We'll save that for later.
So that's what it was like. It was really tin can and maybe a mixer, and hopefully got on the air. But the families were glad we were there.
And what was it like, and Corey, you can answer this too, you guys were there before Rashawn and I were around SportsNetUSA.net. What was it like starting up the website? We know you started on the radio. When we came along, the internet site was already up. What was it like getting that launched and getting everybody to buy in?
That was tough. I mean, Eric, it really goes back, and I'll let Corey jump in here in a second, but Ed Ford and I would go out and do pitches. And being the old guy, I know you've got somebody who's as old as me in the back of the room here. We grew up with transistor radios. So we listened to transistor radio to all the games, baseball, football, and everything else. And it was hard convincing people that a laptop was the next transistor radio. Now, the youngsters on both sides of me and you guys use your phones. But back then, it was try to convince people that, hey, you can sit at home and listen to this game. And we did do terrestrial radio also, but a lot of it was you can listen to it online, and they would go, oh, no, I want to hear it on KNX. I want to hear it on KFWB. I want to KMPC. And we had to convince people that was the future. If Ed Ford and I had a lot of money back then, he could have bought people into it, Ed and I'd be sitting in castles right now.
Yeah, because I think it was more the marketing and advertising aspect that couldn't get people to jump all in. I mean, the fans were, the parents and the family members and the friends, they were all in. There's like, how do I listen to this stuff? Where can I go? I got a computer. I don't know how to use it, but I got a computer, so let's go ahead and listen to it. Whatever you guys want us to do, we'll do and we'll listen. And I think the fan aspect, as you were mentioning, was much more anticipatory than the advertising.
So how did you guys find clients that wanted to get their games on the air? You had to at least
all him.
expand to go out and find people, or were they coming to you?
But, well, a lot of them came to us because people would say, and I'm going to go, we said we would talk a little about community college. Here's a great example. We do Golden West College, right, against Fullerton College. Nick Mitchell, who's a very good friend of Rashawn Haylock's through the years, all of a sudden said, guys, you do the games. How do I get up on your thing? Well, we talked to Ed Ford. We negotiated a contract. Oh, well, do you have an announcer? Well, as a matter of fact, we do. This young man is one of the best that you'll hear. We introduced Rashawn Haylock to Nick Mitchell because Nick Mitchell wanted his team to be on the air. We did Vanguard University. Russ Davis.
Well, it goes, once you do one at somewhere where there's more than 100 people, people are going to approach you. They're going to say, the weird guy over there, he's old and he's got a goatee. What's he doing with all that equipment? There's a guy next to him that doesn't look like his son over there next to him talking on the radio. So the interest was piqued once.
You look a lot more like me.
once a couple broadcasts were going on. And I think that really is, and once you have at least two good broadcasters out of the four, I think it picked up.
Thank you.
Where are they at?
On multiple personalities. He's
Oh,
talking
that's
about
right.
all of me.
That's right, all four of him.
That's it.
What were some of the challenges you ran into when you were first trying to expand SportsNetUSA.net? Obviously, we said that there wasn't really a need for video back then. Eventually, it got to that point. But how did you guys get to that point? And what were some of the barriers you had to jump over to get to this
Well,
stage?
I mean, barriers are still the barriers we have today, technology, or us understanding technology. The youngsters like you two, you get it, you grew up with it. The older guys, we didn't. You know, and that's why you see, and I'm going to go to Rashawn on this, because most of the people, I don't know if the people you work with at Fox are a younger generation. I know your announcers are, but not all of them are young. They're older guys, they're in their 30s, but I don't know, behind the camera, are these the youngsters or are they the older guys that work at Fox?
Yeah, I think you have a mixed bag between the older and the younger. Like our producer this year, you know, he's a younger guy. He just kind of got thrown into the mix this year, and so he tried to do different things and be a little bit more creative. You know, obviously you have the ones that are just coming up, like the production assistants and the runners and things like that. Those are people that are younger that are just starting off. But I think just from a technological standpoint, the game has changed because anybody can be a reporter now, right? You just go out with a camera, you go out with a phone, you could put videos, highlights on Instagram, on Twitter. You could shoot your own. You could literally shoot your own stand-ups with an iPhone, and post it and upload it to wherever you want it to be, and that's how you become a reporter Joe Blow, this, that, or the other. And so, I think that's kind of what's changed about it when you talk about technology, because now anybody can do it. Really, you know, like I'm fortunate enough, like we're fortunate enough to have a platform, right? Like we have SportsNetUSA.net, you know, but there are certain people that Twitter is their platform, Facebook is their platform, and they use it. YouTube is their platform. They use it and they just go. They take it, they run, they go with it, and it's worked for them, and they start to build up a following that way. Because nowadays, it's weird. I heard somebody say this on the radio. You know, when we were growing up, and I still kind of feel this way. I want to watch the game on the big screen TV. You know, like I want the big, you know, the big 50-inch or whatever. Like if it's a big game, that's what I want to watch it on, right? Today, the guys coming up, they don't care. They pull out their phone, they'll watch it right there on their phone, wherever they are, whatever they're doing. You know, the novelty that is sitting in front of a television with a remote and, you know, popcorn or whatever you may have, you know, that doesn't really matter much, you know, to those coming up. They just want it.
That brings up a good point then, if we're talking about not caring as much watching the games. Is there a need to go out and find the next best broadcaster, or does it seem like everybody's out there just plucking whoever?
Well, you first, because I'm going to disagree with him with a term he used. He said anybody can be a reporter. I disagree that anybody can be a reporter, and I disagree with
See,
the fact
I'm
that
not-
anybody can be a broadcaster.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you and agree with more with Eric here because, yeah, anybody can go out there and broadcast a game. Anybody can report on a game. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Doesn't necessarily mean it's quality. But anybody can do it. You mentioned back in the day, what were the obstacles when it first started? People had to be good on the air. People had to present a good broadcast. Nowadays, you can just go out there and I'm on the air, people will watch in any format they have. But back then, there was one way to watch it. You go to the site, go to your computer, you watch it. It should be good. If not, people won't listen.
See, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to disagree again because I got 3 very good broadcasters sitting next to me, you two and Morgan here. And the thing that makes me really say that is because I listen to you guys. I've watched you guys. I know how good you guys are, and I've been around the audience members that have heard you 3. We happened to mention Rashawn this past weekend. Our coaches know who Rashawn Haylock is. They watch Rashawn Haylock. They listen to Rashawn Haylock because of being so close to you with Anaheim Duck high school ice hockey through the years. People knew who you were. They knew what you did. It wasn't because you were just there. They appreciated the fact that you knew what you were talking about, and they appreciated that. Yahoos, you know, if you were a Yahoo, you wouldn't be doing it anymore. Because a parent that knows more than you is eventually going to walk up to you and say, I don't know why you're up there, because I know more than you do, and I can't stay and listen to you.
At first.
And that's the difference. No,
At
that's,
first.
nah, I'm going to say that's
No,
not true.
no, at
He wouldn't
first, that
still
was-
be on the air if he wasn't good.
No,
Sorry,
but
because
if
he's
he-
not a pro football
but
player, not a
let me
pro
put it this way.
basketball player.
If he started now and wasn't any good, he could still go out and do it.
He could do it on his own.
Well, then I guess,
Ooh, get hired by
I guess it's a question for Rashawn because you do work at one of the bigger networks that covers these sports. Do you see that the producers who are going out and finding this talent, are they maybe not as picky as they used to be, or is there still a search for that quality to
Have
put
you
on the air?
watched Fuck high school games?
Man, let him ask the
No,
question.
no. I'm just asking if that's what they're looking for, not what eventually comes out as the end product, but does it seem like they're not as picky, or are they still looking for certain attributes?
Remember, you have a job.
I think it's different now in a sense that the road has changed. So I feel like we kind of entered this business in a weird stretch. We were kind of in the middle, right? We're right before digital kind of took off, and you know, right at the end where, you know, network continues to be a big deal. Like when we were coming up, anybody we would meet, right? Like we'd go out, we'd meet people, whether Physioc, John Ireland, whoever, right? They'll tell us what? Go to a small market,
Yeah.
pay your dues, yada yada yada. Hopefully you make your way back home. And I think today it's changed because of everything that we have here now from a digital standpoint, right? Like I don't have to go to, you know,
Boise.
West Lafayette, Indiana,
Boise.
or Boise, or Helena, Montana to get my reps. I can get them right here, you know, locally in Southern California, and still continue to get those reps and kind of build myself that way. So I think it's changed, and I think we entered in kind of that weird place where it was like, okay, well, do we or don't we? Well, I don't know. Well, I'm doing stuff here. Is that okay? Like, do I really still need to go to Montana or, you know, the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, to get my reps in order to try to get back home? So I think it's just different from that standpoint. And so because of that, I think you see a lot more regional plucking, right? So whereas, you know, some station would have, you know, you search for talent all over the country, right? The next big thing here in Los Angeles just came from Minnesota, like, you know, like Paul Majors, who did the news here in LA for so long, or from Detroit, like Pat Harvey, where she came from. Like, that person could be right here, you know, which fortunately for me, you know, that happened. Like, I didn't have to go anywhere. I was just right here and just begged them, you know, and begged them enough that they finally were like, all right, dude, here's a chance, you know? And so I think it's different from that standpoint.
Okay, so then this is really going to open up the floodgates. What do you all look for in a good broadcast? What are you looking for that'll keep you drawn in to watch a game, or to not hit the mute button on your television while you're watching a game.
Oh boy.
Remember, this is when you promote the sports class you're teaching.
Oh boy.
My goodness gracious. Knowledge, for one. You don't have to have that sportscaster voice like you naturally grew up with. You don't have to have your voice, but knowledge and then.
I mean, he was 19 years old with his voice,
Man,
right?
this dude sounded 40 all his life and good.
Like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like he's
Don't do it.
he's got
No, it's
the
not
gold.
gonna
Like he was born with the golden pipes.
Yeah, no, but knowledge. When we teach our class, we always recognize who is knowledgeable and who's passionate about the broadcast, and that's really the first. And who's going to listen. Those three things are going to be most important at first, and then if you're willing to prepare yourself, that's what we look for in a good broadcast. It doesn't matter how you sound. It doesn't matter what media you're on. As long as you're willing to prepare, as long as you're knowledgeable, as long as you're going to have fun and passionate about it, I'm going to tune you out.
I will say the one thing I learned from the two of you coming up through the program was preparation was the number one thing that you had to do. Mark always said, if you don't end a broadcast with at least 4 pages of information that you did not mention on the air, you're doing it wrong. You still feel the same way?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You can never be prepared enough, and I'm going to go back to the thing, I can't really add to Corey except the thing that got said to me the other night was about passionate broadcasters. Somebody said to me, you know, what I've really enjoyed is somebody who loves the team, and when he calls the team, it means everything to him, and that's what brings players and families to listen. I've got somebody to my right, if you've ever listened to a community college game with Rashawn Haylock, wrestler, touchdown. Well, I can't do it. I should let him do it. I mean, he's a homer. That's the nicest way to put it. I mean,
But it's
the
a- but it's a
wrestlers
good
are
thing
always
that he
getting
homered,
wazooed, and he loves Nick Mitchell. I mean, you really do. You
That's
love
my
Nick
guy.
Mitchell as a good friend, and that passion, besides the amount of knowledge, this guy knows somebody's third and fourth cousin that grew up in the neighborhood that played stickball. I mean, I've never met anybody that knows as much as Rashawn Haylock,
But
except maybe Scott Beck. But the passion
And it's-
is what I love listening to in Rashawn Haylock. And even you, when you do Anaheim Duck High School.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because it's not just when you do Golden West or you do Anaheim Duck, it's each team you do. Even if you haven't done them for years, it's the same passion, it's the same outlook, it's the same preparation that you want to do good and want to do well. And that's what we look for in a good broadcaster. I don't think we've all seen not local, but we've all seen TV this year, football games this year that haven't been very good.
On all levels.
On all levels. You see the guys are out there just going through the motions. You see guys, and not just guys, but guys and women out there going through the motions because they want a job, they have a job, they can do it. Very few and far between that have that passion.
How do you handle calling a big moment? I'm looking at you.
Oh boy.
And how do you handle calling a big
I'm still learning that. In all honesty, like I've run the full gamut on that. Because I mean, you guys have all been in the booth with me. Like wherever Ryan Osborne is right now, like he's literally had to stop me from like jumping out of the booth once because of a big moment. Because
Southwest.
I would Southwestern. Yeah, this happened last year. It was a wrestler game, went down to the wire, and you know I'm trying to punch that note, and as I'm punching, my whole body is into it. So I'm climbing, I'm literally hanging out of the press box window, and Ryan one hand on the tripod, another hand on me, kind of just pulling me back in here, but he stayed on the shot. Kid is incredibly talented, let me tell you. But it's you want to do the moment justice, right? And so I think for me it's been a graduation from, because like I've polled like a lot of people on this, because I know, especially like early on, and I still get this way from time to time, like I'm here, you know, like through the roof.
You dial it up.
Yeah, I die.
Welcome, Chuck Lacey.
Inside joke. And so recently I've tried to dial it back, and so I randomly messaged someone, a network guy, and just asked him how he does it, and I polled different people, how do they do it, you know? And instead of going here, the alternative would be to get, you know, more aggressive, right? So instead of touchdown wrestler, it's touchdown wrestler, you know what I mean? And then also it's it's what medium are you on, right? Are you on radio? Are you on television? Either way, I think you still allow that moment to breathe, right? Like if you're on radio, you can hear the roar of the crowd. Let that play. Let that moment, have its space. And if you're on television, I think the pictures speak for himself, So you tone it down. You say what you have to say, touchdown, whatever. You lay out, you get out, tell your partner shut up, and let the pictures do the talking. And after a while, you get back in there. So I think that's I've graduated to that now. I mean, before I think when we first coming up, like you want to describe everything. Oh my gosh, this play was the greatest play ever. Oh, this is the greatest game I've ever done in my life, and you just want to keep talking, and you don't allow that moment to breathe. So learning to allow moments to breathe has been something that I've been able to grab. Like I was tested. There was it wasn't a buzzer beater, but it was a game that came right down to the wire. Santa Barbara at CSUN last year, and the kid hit the jumper, and I don't know what I said. Heidegger got it or whatever it was, and then I just got out, and just let the pitchers kind of do the talking.
I'm gonna put you on the spot now. This is fun. We'll switch gears a little bit. What was your favorite broadcast you've ever done?
All of them except last Saturday.
You don't want to throw in a couple more?
No, last Saturday was the worst. No, I don't know. My favorite. Okay, there's a couple. Vanguard University's championship game. Just because it was a championship and we got to call it down back in Tennessee University. Actually, Bakersfield versus Fullerton College in 2004, I believe, where Mark called the game, and we were up on the roof of Bakersfield Stadium, and it was 50 degrees, and the game was going to go into overtime, and he had to call for the ages. That might have been one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite games, also. Other than that, it's all good. Yeah.
That's a tough one. I don't know. I hesitate to say favorite, but I think the most memorable one was the Southwestern one last year was pretty fun. But I'll have to go back to this might have been, I can't even remember the year. It might have been 2011, 2012 maybe. Golden West at College of the Desert. I don't know if you guys have ever been to College of the Desert. But, well, you're all the better for it. But it was, so there's no press box, right? There's just, it's just the top of the bleachers with like a little tent kind of, but like it's open. So basically it's just a covering. Yeah. It's raining sideways, right? So I got multiple towels. I'm trying to keep my equipment dry. I got the Comrex. I just learned to use this thing. I can't return it back to Ed Ford broken. And so it's just raining. I ended up forgetting my extension cord. So I went to the Home Depot before setting up for the game. Anyways, Rustler's getting hammered. They're just getting absolutely just obliterated. They come back. They're down, I want to say 3 scores going into the fourth quarter. They come all the way back. It was like an onside kick. They recovered. Lil Will, Andrew Williams, he had a kickoff return. He had another touchdown. It was just bonkers. And, like, I lost my mind on the broadcast. I was solo. And you guys know how much I enjoy doing solo broadcasts, right? But that was a night that I really enjoyed. And I remember I never go to the bus after the game and congratulate or anything, but like I went to the bus after the game and, said congratulations to Coach Mitchell, Coach Stansberry, who was the offensive coordinator at the time. And he said his sister was listening, and I said something along the lines was, "Oh, this was the best game I've ever." And so it probably had to be that one.
2013 State Hospital National Championship in Butte. We did it. They didn't have room in the booth. We had to do it outside. My son went up with me, so I'll always remember that game. But we had the crowd standing right like this.
Actually, the crowd was okay. Mark was where I was. I was here. His son was there. The crowd was right here, right here, right here, and right here, and right here.
And it was a great game. And you would say something, or I would say something, and he would say, "Well, no, I don't think that's the way it is, because that's the way we broadcast. I think they should have done this." And over here, some dad would turn around and go, your partner's absolutely right. He knows what he's talking about. You know what you're talking about. We would have to go, what? You know what? Let me tell you what he just told you. And they were on top of us. It was a great game that we should have won. That was fun. Vanguard University, I go back to Corey. Never been so excited. I always wanted to do a national championship game. I was all hyped up, just like this. And I looked over at Corey, one of the better moments I've ever had at a game. I looked over at Corey, and he winked at me. Just before we started, he winked at me. And I went from to absolutely gone.
That's a partner. That's a partner right there.
I'll tell you.
That's a partner right there.
He just let me know, hey, we're going to win. We're okay. Let's go. And he winked at me. And I went from like that to that. And to me, I always told everybody, that was one of the more amazing feelings I ever had in a game. Because you can't recreate what he did for me. And it was that. So those, and I can go to all the softball games. I can talk about the times that you and I have sat out there doing the Michelle Crew Classic like two 80-year-old men
In the rain sometimes.
watching a softball game,
Yeah.
or watching Rashawn Haylock change his shoes for the 150th time after doing a game. I mean, there's stories about these man's shoes.
Also, some of the games that were enjoyable was when we actually watched them
Yes.
on the air. Because
Watch you guys.
you know how we have road trips. Okay, you two have been to discussion on Tennessee road trips, up north road trips. Just good discussions, but we talk about the broadcast. It's enjoyable to watch you guys do well. So those are the broadcasts.
So
we
those have
enjoy.
been the broadcasts that really always stand out for you.
I think some of my favorite moments were those Cypress basketball games we would do. Like I would coach the freshman team. I'd run to KBBK to go get the equipment and come back, and Eric and I would do the game, or I'd meet him for Pacifica baseball and do the game. And
With our 1,200-foot internet phone line.
that was our going back to Friday Night Mike's, Big E in the franchise.
Yep.
That well-run, long-lasting show that was. But it was, I mean, those are moments that I think finally of all the time.
Favorite venue you ever got to go call a game?
Wasn't Grossmont.
I think it was fun going to USC. I think it was fun going to Arizona. We got to do some Vanguard University stuff there and do that. But probably going up to Sacramento, one of the organizations allowed us to do audio. We went up to Sacramento. We took Gabby Nalen with us and Ryan Osborne, the intern. I rented the room. We all stayed in the old room. We've had a million stories about that trip. And nice venue, great stadium. We watched Ryan Osborne one of the few times. His nickname's Mr. 30 Minutes because if he was here, you'd think I talk a lot. You know you were. He can out-talk Rashawn and I. An important moment in the game, and Corey Nealon threw it to him. And he stared at us. And Corey went, "That's it." And potted him down in the air. So it was a great venue because it was a great stadium, and we had a great trip going up there for our 18 hours up there and 18 hours home.
Yeah.
Rashawn.
I'm a cheat. For me, it's threefold. The first time I did a game at Angel Stadium, I thought, wow, this is really cool. The first time I did a game at a USC women's game at Galen Center, I remember my old roommate called me and asked me how was it, and it was literally, my words were like, it was a dream come true. Just to be able to call a game like officially, like I've called a bunch of games inside Staples Center, but none of them ever went anywhere, like except to my iPod. But like to be able to be in that space and other people to be listening, I thought that was just incredible. And then Key Arena up in Seattle, awful game. The Trojans lost. We were one and done. It was less than 24 hours in Seattle, but I thought it was pretty cool just to go there and actually travel with the team for the first time and call a game for the first time. That was a pretty cool moment. And you think about all the history there, right? With the Rain Man and the glove and Della Shrimp. I was a big Nate McMillan guy growing up. I thought that was really, I got a little nostalgic with that one. Yeah, I'm a basketball guy, so.
And you know me, they're getting ready to put ice in there. So
Yeah. I got
it's
one
coming.
for you. The Pitt at Vanguard University here.
Yeah.
I think that might be my favorite.
I've never been there.
Oh man, it's beautiful.
Never went.
I've never been
It's a
there.
great place to
So many times I wanted to go tag along with these guys, but
It's as big as
something
this.
always got in the way.
It is as big as this.
Nice. So intimate.
Oh no,
It's smaller than the Matadome.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
That's impossible.
no.
Yeah, news for you.
I'm going to put Eric on the spot because you didn't get to answer that. And then I need to know from everybody in your most favorite interview that you've done with infamous or not known.
Did you look at this? Because that
That's
was
the
my
next
next.
question?
It's on the card.
I'm sorry. Like Cray would always say to me,
Oh.
you just hold on. I wrote that down.
It's on the
My
card.
favorite interview, huh?
Yeah, your favorite interview.
A few years ago, in 2000, oh gosh, I don't even remember what year it was. Doing a high school hockey game at the rinks at Anaheim Ice. Teemu Solani was kind enough to come up and sit down, and his son was playing in the league at the time. And I asked him 3 questions, and he talked for 20 minutes, and none of it was about the Ducks. He talked about his son the whole time. The last question I asked him was about the Ducks and about coming back. It was, I think it was the year before he retired. So I had asked him, is this it? Is it one last ride? And he didn't give me nothing, of course, because he's a pro. But that was probably my favorite interview that I ever got to do because he was the nicest man on the planet. And he was sitting in the stands, and we walked down and said, would you mind coming up? And he didn't hesitate. He said, yeah. He goes, at the end of the period, is that fine? We said, yeah, sure. Turn around, came right up. And we did the interview. That was my favorite one that I've ever done.
So for me, I don't really get starstruck that often. And I had met this person before, but this is the first time I got to interview him. And so I got sent on an assignment as a writer. This was for an article that I wrote for the LA Watts Summer Games. And the logo, Jerry West, was like the chairman, or he was, over it at the time. And so I was like, okay, cool, I get to talk to Jerry West. I figured there'd be like a bunch of different media there and whatnot. Solo, one-on-one interview, just me and the logo. They like put us in some closet somewhere. And I don't even remember like the first 3 questions I asked him because the whole time in my mind I'm just thinking like, this is the logo. It's the only time I ever really got starstruck, and so that immediately jumps out.
My first starstruck, or my only starstruck one, was when I got to do Rod Carew. I got to talk to him, and it was an off-camera interview, so I was behind the camera, put us in a closet, same thing, just me and him in there for about 15 minutes. Yeah, so I know, I'll tell you what that feels like. You are right, especially when they put you off to the side.
I got 2. One I didn't do. One was Tommy Smith over. We did Santa Monica. Mark did the interview, but Tommy Smith. If you don't know who it is, look it up. Okay, look him up. That's my second favorite interview. My first favorite probably was Gary Templeton when we went to the. Because I grew up Gary Templeton. I had 3 favorite players. Ricky Henderson, who cussed us out when we asked for autographs, but that's not the story. Ricky Henderson, Ozzie Smith, and Gary Templeton. 3 favorite players growing up. Never got a chance to interview Ozzie, but I did eat at his restaurant. But we got a chance to interview Gary Templeton at Fullerton Flyer.
The Fan Fest. I remember you were geeking out. I remember
Yeah,
that.
I
I'd
was-
never seen you like that before.
I wore number 1 when I was a little kid in my little league jersey with the Cardinals. Gary Templeton was the man for me, and that my favorite ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't good, but it was my favorite.
I got to interview Bruce Matthews at a Fullerton College game, which was fun because when Bruce came up, we talked about being offensive linemen, both of us, because I was when I was younger and he was a Hall of Famer. And so we talked what it was like to be offensive lineman, getting blamed for everything. And then my twin brother showed up at a game, Freddie Dreyer. Corey got him for him. He said, Freddie's here. I'm going to go get him to interview you. And we were outside. There was a brick wall behind us. And next thing you know, this guy leans over the brick wall. It's Fred Dreyer. And Freddie and I started doing an interview, and somebody right in the middle of it just, hey, Fred. And he turned around, looked at him, and said, shut up. Can't you say I'm talking to my friend Mark? And so Fred and I talked about everything. He was in an old shirt, looked like a bum, but he was the nicest man in the world. And it was just, we talked about why we didn't like football, why it should change. And it was one of those where you go, okay, You know, I could keep this interview forever, and the one with Bruce Matthews. I've been very fortunate. He's gotten me some outrageous people to interview over the years. And if I would have ever actually did this and looked for a future, been young like you guys and started like that, I'd have a hell of a resume with all my interviews. I really would. People would go, you know, you got me Brian Noble from the Green Bay Packers, former Hornet. We never talked about the Green Bay Packers when he did. And probably my most iconic interview was my Hal Scherbeck interview that I did just before Hal died. So, yeah, I've had fun.
I thought you were going to leave with hell.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finished with it.
I did. I mean, you know, and I'm like Rashawn. You look at certain people and you just go, wow, you know, who they are. But like Corey can tell you, you know, we're all human. They just happen to be a little taller and a little quicker.
Shoot better.
I don't know about
Hey,
that.
hey.
Well, except for he can shoot.
All right, closing thoughts before we get out of here, and I'll let you guys go.
I'm glad we
Where?
talked about high school.
I know. I had a whole thing ready. I was ready to go into communism and socialism about how that should be the high school sports because everything should be equal. And man,
Guess we got to come back then, huh?
okay.
All right.
We'll have to do this again. Closing thoughts. Where is the media going for high school sports here in the future? Where do you see it going over the next couple of years, and where can we see, you know, our local high school kids broadcast out to the public?
We got another 45 minutes? Is that what you're saying?
No, take 1 minute to answer that question, man. 1 minute. One
Go
minute.
ahead, Rashawn.
Rashawn says they're going way well.
I think it just continues to expand. If like Fox Sports West, they started doing games in 1997, right? And it was the game of the week, and that was it. Now they do 5 games of the week essentially. You know, 1 that airs over the air, then 4 that air digitally. They're going to have all 14 championship games coming up next week. KDOC just signed the basketball deal to have CIF Southern section basketball, and they started it last year. This year they're increasing the coverage, right?
You're gonna have some women's game on there, girls games.
I don't know if they're having girls games, but they are going to have a couple city section games as well. And so it's but then you see like Stadium, for example, like they have Thursday night football, and high school football. I think it's just continuing to grow as recruiting gets bigger and continues to take on a life of its own. And with social media, like these kids become stars before, you know, before entering high school, really, you know. And you know, you got all these different fan bases reaching out to them. You got the Clemson fan bases, the Alabama fan bases, the UW fan bases, SC fan bases. Hey, come to our school, come to our school. I think all that adds even more, you know, intrigue to high school sports. And so football obviously is king, but I think you're going to see more basketball. I think eventually you may see more baseball. I think it just continues to grow. It's going to continue to expand.
It's great, baby. It's great. I'm just going to say it flat out. You know, he works for an organization that's out there because they can make money. And as long as high school sports can produce money,
And you don't
they're
have to pay anybody.
going to come out. They're going to come out and continue to do it, and that's what high school sports are about. You see with the PGF, Fox shows that on a delayed basis. That was about money. They used to be with ESPN. Then we showed up for a few years because nobody wanted to do it. Then all of a sudden they realized we could do it, and they took it away from us because they had more equipment and they could make money at it. So I think, you know, sports groups always have to find something to show.
Yeah, but I don't know that it's all about money. I think
I do. It's all about money.
I don't think that's all about money. Because when they first started doing this back in 97, 98, whenever it was for reach, right? It was how do we immerse ourselves into the community. And there's nothing more community than high school football. Now, obviously, high school has changed over the years, right?
But only one side of the community is being represented, so it's all about what they can bring in revenue-wise. I mean,
But I think that's the pro sports, though.
that's all.
You know, like I don't know that high school
When was
sports.
the last time you saw a high school softball game on TV?
PGF. No, I'm just
No,
being
no,
honest.
Yeah.
no, just regular season.
No, you don't.
Well, no, well that's for you don't see. I mean, you don't see professional softball on TV.
No, well, no, you don't. But I mean, when do you see girls basketball on KDOC?
Only the big schools, only the name school may show up once in a while.
For the championship.
For the
I'm
championship.
talking regular season.
But
we saw.
But when you talk about it getting
You
in the
ain't getting us
community
outta
and
here.
everything else, Rashawn, I mean, let's be really honest on this. It's about what Fox can make, who does the advertising. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be known college athletes on the broadcast for whomever is broadcasting it, whatever sport. It's always got to be something that makes us watch it. And why do they make us watch it? Because they're gonna throw those logos in all those commercials. Even while Ray is doing his thing, there's a commercial right after Ray does his thing. It's not about you doing your thing. It's about you doing your thing. And oh, by the way, not that he does this. Stick around because we're going to be back with more exciting football. And then there's 15 commercials just like on the higher level.
But again, I will give them credit. I will give the big networks credit, though. At least they're trying. So that's the good thing about it. I think at least they're trying to promote it because there's almost nothing better than high school sports. So as much as I will complain about inequality and the money, it's still out there trying, and I'll watch it and support it.
Well, they're trying because I'm going to promote the man on my right here. They're trying because of segments he does on high school sports. I not only watch it because I know you, but I enjoy your segments. I enjoy you talking to the kids that are players. I mean, I got a kick out of the last one where you were playing with the weight bag that they were throwing at you. And then Rashawn says, I don't know where it came in or if it was edited or not, show me something spectacular. And the kid makes the catch between his legs out there. But you humanize. Okay, I'm going to be real honest. Your segment humanizes high school sports and lets us know these are still kids. Does the Fox broadcast tell me these are still high school kids? I don't necessarily believe that when they do it. And I'm not picking on your guys. I just think there's two different fields. When you say they're bringing in the community, I really do believe your segment is the community. Hey, guess what? These are kids. I think the high school game, guess what? These are superstars. And we're going to show you the big name schools. And that's all about money.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily. I wouldn't say it's all about money.
Okay.
I mean, obviously that has something to do with it, but I wouldn't say it's all about money. I mean, because that's what you have pro sports for. Like, you can sell a whole. There are obviously a whole lot more eyes on Clippers than there are on high school football. Like, let's just be honest. You know. Period.
No, period. Even when the Clippers are horrible.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Period. Like there's just more eyes. So if it's all about money, then I don't know that you would continue to do that. I mean, Fox has been in the game now for 22, 23 years now.
Advertisers. Man, you know it's all about advertising.
That's what I'm saying. You can sell a whole lot more for a Clipper game than you can for high school football. I mean,
Well,
if you look at who's buying high school football ads, Raising Cane's and Ford.
Yeah, and Ford.
Turn on a Clipper
And
game.
Ford.
Jack in the Box, Carl's Jr., Lexus,
And
Toyota,
Ford. And Ford looks at the community, and this is where Rashawn Helock says
and farmers.
it's about reaching into the community. Guess what Ford does? Same way that Miller Toyota has done it with sports@usa.net. Guess who's doing this? Ford. What should I buy? Well, I mean, if we really care.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying it
I do feel like it has become more profitable, but I think the market has dictated that. Like, I think these kids have become a lot popular at a younger age, as we talked about, and I think the sport in general has become more popular just because we know who these guys are from a much younger age. When Lane Kiffin offers a seventh grader a scholarship, and he ends up on the local news, and all of a sudden we're going to know who this guy is. So I think because of that, it's become more profitable. So that's how it's changed. Like the CIF is able to make more money off of it now than they were when we first started.
And local guys like you doing a show like this, and what you do with the Ducks and everything, is going to popularize it as well. So I think it's more at the local level they'll pay more dividends than even at the national level.
Absolutely.
Here it'll be pay more dividends for the high schools because you get to see and encompass all high schools, not just the major ones.
Let's go to the Little League World Series and the Softball Little World Series.
You know how I feel
It's all
about the
about
Little
money.
League.
Yeah, it's all about
I
money.
think the Little League World Series people should be paid. Them kids deserve some money.
And that's a whole nother show for a whole nother time. Oh my
You told
goodness.
little Timmy from Chula
I was-
Vista should be getting a cut, is what you're saying?
Money.
You're right. Hey, did you have to pay $5 for parking before this show too?
I got lost, man.
Okay. I would never do that.
All right.
$7 at least. You can catch Rashawn Haylock on Fox Sports all postseason long during the CIF playoffs. You can catch him during basketball season as well. Also, check out the Believe in 49ers podcast with Eric Davis.
ED.
That's been fun. I enjoyed listening to you guys.
It's been a lot of fun. I didn't know the guy until we started this podcast, but no, never met him. But he's he's a good dude, and he's fun to work with.
Yeah. You can also follow Rashawn on Twitter at @rhaylock. You can look him up. Mark and Corey, they're on sportsnetusa.net all the time, calling Fullerton College sports. When's the next one?
This weekend,
Oh, that's right,
basketball.
Saturday. Yeah.
Perry Webster. We're going to do a game for Perry Webster, and then we'll be around next semester. We're doing a little baseball. We'll see what happens. Of course, sports@usa.net, Golden West College with Rashawn Haylock, LA Valley, East Los Angeles City College.
Shout out to
Fulton
Coach Mitchell.
College. They're on sports@usa.net.
There you go. Guys,
Gotta
thanks.
get that advertising in, Barry.
Yeah, you do.
Packers by 7 over your 49ers.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
He's right. On that note, guys, thanks for catching up with me. I appreciate you coming out here tonight.
Thank you
man,
for
that's
having
fun,
us,
man.
dude. This is
Thank you.
Be
this
watching
is awesome.
you on Anaheim Duck High School ice hockey.
That's right. Got another game coming up soon. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, partner.